Today I'll share with you my latest project, which has been giving me some troubles, but at the same time is very engaging. I'm liking it a lot. And what I'm trying to do is to account for the differences in the distribution of and usage of two Italian verbs, and namely the verbs Darla and darlo, and we'll go through the definitions in a moment. Actually, I have a handout that might help with the examples and everything. And then I also wanted to shed some light on the semantic evolution of the verb darlo, which seems to have developed a new meaning, the meaning of men to have sex. Which makes it almost equivalent to darla, which means of women to have sex easily, or to be promiscuous if you want. And my proposal, tentative proposal, or proposal at this time, is that the dynamics of the development of these two verbs shed light on how changes in sociocultural attitudes and stereotypical beliefs pertaining to the representation and perception of gender and sexuality can actually shape language change and language itself. So some definitions. The verb darla it's found basically in three dictionaries. In De Mauro Gradit, Grande Dizionario Italiano dell'Uso, where it's labeled as comune e gergale. And comune means basically a lexical item that is understood by anyone who's received, has attended scuola media or scuola superiore, independently of their professional background and so on and so forth, or social class. And the definition De Mauro provides is di donna avere rapporti sessuali con qualcuno, specialmente con facilità. Then we find it in Battaglia, the largest and most valuable dictionary of the Italian language, which is now, I think, 23 volumes. And there it's defined as concedersi carnalmente una donna. And then we find it in Bogione Casalegno, I don't remember the title, but it's Dizionario letterario del lessico amoroso, metafore, eufemismi e trivialismi. It's a very recent dictionary, and it's a unique work in this respect. It's a revision of a previous dictionary they had published, an expanded edition that they had published a few years before that. And they define again dare, they actually group it with dare, darla, and darne, again as concedersi sessualmente, il pronome dimostrativo, they called the la and ne pronome dimostrativo, but we know it's not, allude per eufemismo all'organo femminile. Okay, so these are the three definitions that we find about for darla. It's not found in one volume dictionaries, even the most recent and contemporary ones. It's not found in the Treccani, Dizionario Treccani, and so on. And then we have darlo, again, De Mauro labels darlo comune, again, in volgare now. It's not gergale anymore, but it's volgare. And defines it as prestarsi a pratiche sessuali sodomitiche. Battaglia does not report this item. It only has darla, and we'll go back to this issue in a moment. And then in Bogione Casalegno we find actually two senses. They're listed as 3 and 4. And the first one is di uomo possedere sessualmente una donna, and here he provides he exemplifies his definition with two examples from Rossara Campos, In principio erano le mutande, and I have given number one in the handout. mi fa l'elenco dettagliato delle posizioni e dei bellissimi romantici modi di come lui gliel'ha dato. And the second sense that Boggione and Casalegno provide is intransitivo, compiere la penetrazione, l'atto sessuale, anche con riferimento a rapporti sessuali. And they give the example in 2, which is from a 1500 text, le Pasquinate Romane del 500. And notice though that in this example in 2, we don't have darlo per se, we have dare dietro. We notice two different definitions of darlo, two very different definitions. The first one, the one given by De Mauro, refers to sodomitic sex. The other one, on the other hand, is very different. It's still, the second sense could still be open to pratiche, rapporti omosessuali, but the first definition is basically the equivalent, or almost equivalent of Darla. What has changed is, of course, the referent, implicit referent of the clitic has become the penis as opposed to the vagina. And then, most importantly, I think, the connotation of promiscuity or easiness is not there, because this is clear also in Rossana Campos' work, and I'll tell a little bit more about it in a moment. So we have a very interesting change of perspective here. Then let's look briefly at, if I have time, I don't know how.
Yeah, maybe if you, we have maybe another 5 minutes. And then
okay,
should,
so
yeah,
I will not go through
Maximum.
the origins of the two verbs very much, or at least I will just mention that according to, again, Battaglia dictionary, the first attestation of Darla is found in Aretino's work, in his Ragionamento. And in fact, there are a lot of examples of Darla in Aretino. It appears also in the form of darne, but this is because ne was used to refer to feminine reference, so it's not surprising. We have some examples there, and there is agreement on this. De Mauro agrees, Boggione and Casalegno agree, and so on and so forth. Things are a little bit different when we look at Darlo, because De Mauro, again, does not provide any example. He gives the date, just the date of the first attestation, and when we look at the, how he put together the dictionary, when we look at the introduction, looking at the introduction, we know that when only the date of the first attestation is given, it's meant that he's following Battaglia dictionary, so he's borrowing basically the first attestation from Battaglia. But the funny thing is that when we go and look in Battaglia's dictionary, Darlo is not there. So we have a little bit of a problematic situation, which becomes again, the problematicity or the doubts that can be surrounding this, what De Mauro says, are reinforced by also by the definition of Boggione and Casalegno, because in their definitions, again, that sodomitiche, pratiche sessuali sodomitiche doesn't really appear necessarily, right? It could be there, but it's not that, definitely it's not the primary meaning. So I did some research. I've been reading a lot of, I've tried to form sort of a corpus of what could be considered letteratura erotica del 500-600. Actually, I arrived there, and I haven't found one single attestation of Darlo. It's not in Aretino. I haven't found it in any form. Darlo, darne, it's not there. So I started looking at contemporary literature to see if, what I found. And of course, I started with Rossana Campos' work, and she uses darlo in basically almost her novels, but again, with the meaning of a man to have sex. And what I found interesting also is that even in Campos' work, which at this point we may consider as the first person to use, or one of the first people to use the verb, the asymmetry in terms of easiness has not disappeared. I mean, Rossana Campos uses Darla a lot, but even in her work, Darla conveys, again, this idea of easiness. On the other hand, Darlo doesn't. I think the example that we have here shows it, and there is another very interesting example that I did not include it, but I will tell you later if you want to see. So it seems then that darlo is a very new item in the lexicon. It's an item that not very actually I haven't found so far. I've asked my colleagues, I've asked my family, but they don't seem really to know this unless again you've read Rossana Campos. So it doesn't seem to be the case that darlo has really become an actual used active item in the average Italian speaker's lexicon. On the other hand, darla is really known by almost everybody, and again, darla is attested amply. We find it in all sorts of writings. I've consulted a corpus, I don't know if you know it, the Coris Codis is a very nice corpus, very large, put together at the Università di Bologna, and there are not hundreds, but it's well attested, in different kinds of writings, in novels, in narrative, in newspapers, in journals, and so on and so forth. I found an example in Camilleri's work, and not even his most recent ones, in Il Corso delle Cose. And then there is something very interesting that was pointed actually out to me by my brother-in-law. There is an attestation of Darla in a very recent novel, short novel by an author called, whose name is Giancarlo Ibba, and this is the example that I have under 8 in the second page of your handout, and the example is: portava una maglietta bianca con una simpatica scritta maiuscola nera, leggibile anche nella semioscurità. Dalla non è un cantante, più sotto, tra parentesi tonde, è un consiglio. Now, what's interesting about this example is that these T-shirts, there has been a boom of these. You can buy them on Amazon. You can buy them on, sulle bancarelle fuori. So clearly, Darla is well known. Everybody understands this example. So what I'm sort of concluded at this point is that, of course, we see a semantic change in darlo. The semantic change per se doesn't still attests to a situation of sexism, because men are still, and even if we refer back to the definitions provided by Boggione and Casalengo, we have darlo of possedere sessualmente una donna, but darla is still concedersi sessualmente di una donna. So it's clear that nothing has really changed, just a new item has come. It's an apparent fixing of things. But the other issue is, could we really say that this is a phenomenon that pertains to the Italian language, or is it just something that has developed within one or some, perhaps, authors, and it's basically destined to remain what it is, an isolated case that fits well probably within Rossana Campos' narrative history or her themes, her agenda, her thinking, but hasn't, at least for now, really taken over and made its entrance in the language. Will it ever enter the language? We don't know.
Okay, thank you very much.